Ready to go? Yeah? Okay, so up next we have Sarah Groff-Henny-Palermo presenting the tool Olio.
Hey everybody. Hello people also on the stream. I don't know where the camera is that Alex and, oh, hi. Alex said to wave to you guys. So hey guys, thanks for coming. So I'm talking about Olio, which is an SVG sequencer. And basically, once upon a time, I saw this video on the internet. It's this drum circuitry with all sorts of little lights going off, and it controls things like these, which is, it's at a Sri Lankan festival. I think it's called the Vesak Pandal. I don't know anything else about it culturally, so please don't ask me. I just saw on the internet this cool thing, and I was like, what does it make? And it makes this. And so I, on the other hand, make visuals kind of like this, which you can see have all sorts of rhythmic variations that might possibly be grouped. They can get more complex, and I write live code for them. So this is a speeded up version that sort of shows you how one of those things might evolve. You can see all the flashing lights and rhythmic repetitions of things and how I'm writing code next to it. And the code that I write to make these things looks kind of like this. It's ClojureScript. You might not be able to see it because the screen is, it's not the very best color scheme, but I thought it was cute. I hope you can see some of it. But essentially, the really important part of this is you can see that I'm creating the rhythm when the item appears, in this case, a mint heptagon, every third frame, and that's that bottom line. And so essentially, when I am doing rhythmic work with La Habra, which is what my framework is called, I am adding the rhythm in this programmatic way where I say this particular element should repeat this many times. The animations, they have timing, but they're done this way. And I sort of said, okay, what if I made something that was kind of like these cool cylindrical drums or, say, music boxes, right, where there's a visual reference to when the item appears. It's cyclical, and they're grouped, and it's easy for viewers to see the pattern. You can see the pattern on the screen. As a bonus, what if I included some ways of looking at juxtaposition, which is interesting to me in my practice. This is a small little piece I've done that shows sort of ideas of juxtaposition, both spatially and in time, right? These are segments from the same performance, but now they are put together and then run through a very old synthesizer to give it that vibe. More formally, in my paper, if this is interesting, I recommend reading that because it goes into a lot more detail about the thought process. But, you know, I could state the question sort of like what might happen if I decomposed my improvisations and separated the sequencing from the animation definitions. That was the first thing I did, where I defined the animations beforehand. What kind of performances and changes might result from making this sequencing changeable in real time? So instead of being like a music box or a Vesak Pandal flasher drum where it's defined before it goes off, what happens if you can change that sequence as it goes? What kinds of sequences would spatial selection make simple or more appealing? And then how would making the formation and variation of pattern over time apparent to the audience change the experience for people, or would it at all, right? I think a lot about the pattern when I'm writing the code, but because of the way, with La Habra, but because of the way it's slid in with everything else, it might not always be apparent to the people who are watching. So what if I made that apparent? So now it's time to look at things in the demo, if I can make the computer work as I expect it to. First, we're gonna click screen mirroring. This is a bad sign. It doesn't seem to see the other screens can be mirrored. Please stand by while I try to understand how Apple works. I don't know if other people ran into this when I like pull up the normal screen mirroring. It doesn't seem to see that these are separate screens, which is very strange. I don't know if it's from the way it's set up. I wonder if I can demo this for you I'm not gonna be able to see the screen, so we're gonna try a real fun adventure that's probably gonna end really badly, but it's better than watching me look at Apple stuff. Let's see. So I am not gonna be able to do this because I can't see the screen. Let's see. I wonder if I can come sit down there. Sorry, guys. If I come closer. It's very strange that it does not believe in screen mirroring.
Maybe you can try the control center on the right, upper right.
Right up here, but see if you click screen mirroring, it just doesn't show anything. It doesn't show the other screen. And if I go to display settings, I can go to arrange, but it still wants them to be.
Try unclicking and re-clicking. They changed it, but you have to click Alt.
You have to click Alt.
Yeah, or I don't remember.
Can I just see if I can get here, like, let's see. It's like we need a right click normally to do something.
Control click. Mirror built-in display. Jiminy criminy, why is Apple out to get me? Oh, right. Okay. Oh my God, you guys, we're gonna have so much fun now. Okay, so, yay, this is Olio. You can see right now, there's 3 cool guys on the screen. They're not doing anything. This is the main display area. Over here on the right, we have the Olio, we have the grouping. It will proceed through each row. So we have 3 items. So let's go ahead and start all of row number 1. We click this little balloon to start the animation because you're like letting it go. One of the reviewers of my paper asked about what the icons meant, and they only make sense in my head, so they mostly mean click around. Right, so we have this great sequencer. We can have number 2, and then we can show 3. The background is changing. It's pretty simple. Come back around to number 3, friend. Here, we'll do all of them. Oh yeah, there's more. So now it does all of the different ones, and it goes ahead and proceeds through. So these icons, one of the questions I asked myself when I was working on this project is, right, what would I find if I arranged icons spatially? If I did things like, you know, you really want to do stuff when you can click boxes by being like, what if I do a cool X? Will that make a cool picture that happens? And the answer is usually no. But that's why we ask ourselves questions, right? Often it does better if you mix them up a little bit. So we have this cool cheese button here. And this does a random set of items so that when you're working on things or debugging it, you can start getting ideas and filling in elements. But as I said, I was also like, okay, I understand how I'm putting all of these things together, and you can see these boxes on one side and these little pictures on the other side, but what if you wanted to decompose them a little bit and understand them better? Well, luckily, you see how there's these cool little icons down at the bottom? This amoeba means we're showing everything together, obviously, because it's an amoeba. But if you click the 4 knobs, now we have a grid, so we can start understanding the objects, the elements separately, right? We can say, okay, we can toggle between the views and say, I understand that these are the grouped pieces that can go ahead and make something together. I can put them together. When I was working on things, I made some mistakes and I accidentally made this cool weave view, so, or slit view, I guess is what this is that I've been enjoying. And then if you put 2 slits together, indicated obviously by an abacus, we can go ahead and see, it should start, there we go, that the elements are laid on top of each other. And the icon, and they have the animations applied to them somewhat separately based on how the code is written behind it, so you can get lots of weird things going on. And this is cool, right? You might want to perform it. You might say, you know, it would be cool if there were sounds that went with this. So if I turn on my sound, we can click, obviously, the lion for some drones. So now you can hear that there is a sound associated with each box, and it makes a drone. Or we can have this little that makes other sounds that are associated with each item, and they work in every view, whether it's grid or amoeba or anything like that. And all of this is very cool, but you might say, okay, but all the images are back here. And when I first started doing it, I said, well, how is it different if I code the images separately and then just go ahead and perform them as a sequencer? And I thought that was interesting, but I also thought, what if instead I could also just add images while I'm writing it? So the secondary part of this is we can go ahead and enter different items. So I need to activate the mode that lets us add images, and then instead of making you watch me type things, I'm just going to copy and paste this from this buffer. If you come to the show tomorrow, you'll get to see me do it in real life, and then we can save it, and now we have our own little icons. The animation pattern can be changed here, picked from a drop-down. I can actually write new animation patterns live as well, and I can add the background colors live as well. So if we want to do something like alternate between gold and transparent, we can do that too. This all uses SVG and HTML, so you can use named HTML colors, you can use mixed blend modes, which I can add to different items. So if we go to number 3 here, we can drop this code in. This is all SVG code for paths. You'll notice paths are very long. You can also enter them using these buttons because no one is going to remember exactly how to write a pentagon. I mean, somebody could, but I would be very impressed if you remembered all of those patterns. So we can sort of go ahead together and put together a series of elements entered like this. We have the ability to add and remove different items when they're finished animating. So we can see that right now this row number 3 appears, these are the triangles. They're still sitting there still when they're not being animated, when they're not selected. But if we click this button, then they disappear and they only appear on the screen when they're being animated. So it's basically a number of different ways to look at all the items together and live code them. And then when you close it, the little chick closes up back into an egg again. That's a very important piece. And if you don't want any of the items, we can close this. So if somebody just wanted to set it and perform it, that's also possible. And I'm working with other musicians to add other sounds to it now. And then let's see if I can flip back to not screen mirroring and show you guys the last slides, and that will be it. Control, stop mirroring. That's the other one we opened. And so, right, so I had a couple of questions that I asked, and so I have a couple of interstitial answers so far. I will say that the limited slots encourage sort of thinking about how to apply animations to a group as a whole. In this case, you saw the triangles together, but I can also move up to items like this, where you start moving the foreground and the background pieces together, which I hadn't considered in the way I tend to write my other pattern code. But now you can like create these weird mores that's about thinking about using the colors together. Also, you can see on the right there in the console, it says Olio. I forgot to show you this in the demo, but now in the console info, there's all sorts of information about how it works. So if somebody wants to go online and play with it, there's a little more info in there. As I mentioned, spatial selection is a source of a lot of traps. The temptation is to make pleasing items, but making a pleasing view on the grid and a pleasing demonstration are very, very difficult. And as for how it changes how I perform, I don't really know yet, but we can all find out together tomorrow at 8:40 at Panca. Please come. I'm going to be playing with Nancy Drone, who did the sounds that are the little crystal ball, and we're going to be doing a bigger performance, so you won't just be listening to the same 9 sounds in combination, but sort of starting there and expanding to see where we get. Thanks so much.
That's okay. Thank you. And thank you, Sarah. So now we have some time for questions in the room. I see one all the way at the back. You're definitely going to have to come to me, Evan. Yeah. Oop. Thank you.
Okay. I think I might know the answer, but are your SVGs, can you generate them on the fly, or are they just like cut and paste right now?
No, you can generate them on the fly in that, I mean, you have to know how to write SVG basically, but if you can paste them in. So let me just go back to this screen mirroring thing, if I can
So
do it.
you can't run JavaScript in that window, can you?
No, you can just run, it's a reduced version of SVG. So you can enter the paths. So you can enter any SVG element you want in here.
Sure, yeah.
And then you can add some styles for that group underneath it. So if I wanted to add another mix blend mode or something, we do these three equal signs, and I can just be like mix blend mode difference, and that'll work. I don't know if it'll show a lot because it's nothing else underneath it, but fundamentally.
Okay. And is that just to, I mean, because you could use other like JavaScript libraries for SVG, but is this just to like bask in the glory of SVG?
This is because I write pure SVG. So it's, my other tool is a tool only for me. This is a tool for maybe other people, but it's not. I find SVG libraries, the way that they remove people from what the SVG is actually doing, to be kind of unfortunate. So I like to encourage people to go ahead and just write the SVG. It's definitely easier than writing a light for every box or something.
Sure, cool.
All right, we have another question. Yep, just come right up.
I love the visualizations, but actually I was really inspired by your icons. So I was wondering if you could explain the connection between cheese and randomness.
Yeah, so the holes in the cheese are like filling the holes in the space. The balloon is letting things go. This one is, the thinking one stops the animation so that you can pause and take a thought. And then my very favorite is the spigot one here at the end, because I'm like, oh, it's turning it off. It's like emptying it out. It's pouring it out. But multiple people have pointed out to me, they're like, but it's pouring it into a cup. And my brain has entirely elided the cup from the spigot, and we're just turning off the spigot to empty everything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw another question. Do you want to make your way up here? I'm just going to get everyone to come up here. Thank you.
So the sequencer has 9 sections because presumably there's a grid of 3 by 3 elements, and it's just 9 because that kind of works out nicely, I guess. But then you've also got 9 steps in it, and I assume that's somewhat arbitrary, but do you have any thoughts on how that's going to work if you're performing with musicians who are often working in multiples of 4 and 8, and suddenly you're out of phase? And yeah.
No, I never think about the musicians. I mean, okay, yeah, that's like mostly a joke, but it's partly not, because often I think a lot of audio-visual work, the idea is that like the visuals are this accompaniment to the music, and that the music is the real thing. It's the thing everyone's there for, and you're just illustrating the music. And obviously, as a visual artist, I find that horrible and unconscionable. So I like the idea that this is something where the visuals are drawing the music. The order of the sounds is based on the order of the animations that I think is nice. Also about 9, this is a slide and a secret, there's 9 items because I'm very lazy, and in JavaScript, dealing with string representations of numbers that are more than 1 digit is a pain in the ass. So 9 was decided for me, and then the grid came afterward. I was just like, I'm lazy and I'm making 9.
Was that a question? No. Yeah?
I love the interface and the work with the SVGs. The cloud is for pausing, like you said, take a thought. Are you able to export the SVG?
No, not yet. So that's one of the things that I've put on my list that I think would be nice. Although rather than exporting the SVGs, I've been thinking about encoding them in the URL. which like, a number of other programs do, Hydra in particular, but lots of other code stuff. So then if you send somebody the URL, they can have the whole demonstration. It's a little difficult too. One thing I didn't mention is for the active mode where you're writing it directly into the browser, there's no database or backend. It's just saving it to local storage. So it's on my list to think a little bit more about how to let people share things they've done on their browser, because it won't exist otherwise.
Yeah, I was kind of excited about the idea of exporting this SVG and sending it to like a pen plotter that takes an SVG file, so like an immediate physical to digital thing. But really cool stuff.
Thanks.
All right, so to keep us to time for the rest of the evening as well, I think we're going to say thank you very much to Sarah.
Thank you, everyone.